wherever you are, Mr. Graham Kern.
Thank you, Roger. Yes, and thank you everybody for coming along. Now, do we still run through the little introductory video that tells everybody of all this, or if we, no, good, we just move on. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to this meeting of Online Presenters Toastmasters Club. My name is Graham Cairns, and I'm going to be your Toastmaster for this evening. There's an interesting whistle coming from somewhere, a bird chirping, it sounds to me. I'm not sure where that one's coming from, but can everybody mute themselves? Maybe, Antoinette, I'll mute you. Yep, okay, that's cool. So, my role as Toastmaster is not to be the star of the show. My role is simply to introduce all of the people who are going to be doing various roles. And to do that, I'm going to ask each of these people to tell me what it is that they intend to do this evening. And we will start with our timekeeper. Deborah, you've already demonstrated your timekeeping, but what is your role as you see it tonight?
Hi, my first role would be to figure out how to unmute myself. Thank you. This is the first time I'll be a timer for this group. I was a timer once before in the other group, local group, but I am going to show you whoever is speaking within that 5 to 7 minute range at a 5 minute, a 6 minute, and a 7 minute timer, and this will be, let me see if I got it right. My green for your first, and then my yellow, and then the red, which is you have 30 seconds to go.
Excellent, and very fruitful indeed. Thank you, Deborah.
Absolutely.
And I also ask everybody to please run timing yourself if you can, because sometimes it's very easy in this environment to lose the timekeeper and not be able to know what times things are. Our counter for tonight is the inimitable Magda van Rooyen. Now, Magda, your role tonight is to...
My role is to listen very carefully. And if you use any filler words like so, anything like that, really, imagine I'm standing behind you with a live cattle prod. So take a deep breath or else you're going to get zapped. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
That hurt. Yes, I'm reminded of Bart Simpson and the cupcakes. If you don't get that reference, life's tough. We don't appear to have a grammarian tonight. Is there anybody who would like to stick their hand up for the role of grammarian and to watch the good, the bad, and the ugly in our language tonight? If not, we can just move on and do that next week. No volunteers? Seeing no volunteers, we will move on to the watcher. John, you've stepped into the role of watcher. What will you be doing tonight?
Well, my favorite series is Game of Thrones, so this reminds me a lot of being the watcher on the wall. But instead of watching for the wildlings or for the Night King's army, I'm going to be watching for the visual presentation that everybody provides tonight. How much glowing halo effect your green screen is providing, how centered you stay on the camera, and more specifically, how much you move in and out of camera focus, because those movements is what creates a lot of autofocus problems. So that's what I will be looking for tonight, and now my watch begins.
Yes, and hopefully your watch will not be done at the end of it all. Let's move on to our chat monitor. One of the important functions in an online meeting is chat, and an important function in this club is the chat monitor. Deborah Carr, can you tell us what you'll be doing?
I certainly will. I will be keeping an eye on the chat to see what's going on and double checking to make sure that the time is put in and things like that. Roger last week mentioned that, you know, with this many people at the chat going, if you have something that you want to make sure that the entire group sees, to repost it a couple times, because it keeps scrolling often, and then other nights it's quiet. But if you'll do that, that'll help us all out.
Excellent, thank you, Deborah. Now, our vote counter tonight is Monica. Monica, can you tell us how you will be accepting votes, and perhaps rename yourself to Vote Counter Monica? Oh, you're currently Monica Tucker Vo, so if you put the vote at the beginning, that might help.
Okay. I will rearrange the wording. as vote counter at the end of each of the different sections, whether it be speakers, table topics, or evaluations. After we get the time and everyone's qualified, then you will send a private message to me. And how that works is you go into the chat and you look for the drop-down box and find my name, which I'll be Monica Vote Counter, and send me your vote at the end of each of these sections so that I can get those tallied for our Toastmaster. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you everybody who is providing one of those ancillary roles. They're often thankless tasks, but they are essential to the functioning of a good meeting. We have 3 speeches tonight, so I'm not going to waste any time. I'll get to our first speech, and our first speech today is coming from the Motivational Strategies Path. This is a level 1 speech. From Mastering Fundamentals, Researching and Presenting. It's interesting that this speech used to come up at, I think, number 6 or 7 in the old Competent Communicator program, but it's now been moved into the fundamentals where I believe it should be. Since joining Toastmasters in December 2018, Antoinette Trim has noticed improvement in both her delivery as well as her being able to critically analyse the delivery of other speakers. She's determined she's going to continue to improve with each feedback she receives from both her local club and her online club. Today she's on level 2 with a local club and has almost completed level 1 with online presenters. So tonight she's going to be presenting a speech of between 5 and 7 minutes with a green at 5, an amber at 6 and a red at 7. The speech is entitled, Can Donald Trump Deliver a Great Speech? Can Donald Trump deliver a great speech? Antoinette Trim.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Can Donald Trump deliver a great speech? When you hear men like Martin Luther King Jr. and Barack Obama, do you really think that Donald Trump can deliver a great speech? We all know that a great speech has an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. But do you really think that Donald Trump's speeches have all those components? Dr. King, a senior lecturer at the University of Liverpool, an English lecturer, cited there are 5 ways in which Donald Trump is trying to make rhetoric great again. Firstly, Trump's strength is in the ordinary. Donald Trump is far from being an ordinary man. He has inherited a vast fortune. He has been a television star for decades. And now he has risen to the highest office in the world. But despite that, he has found ways to connect with ordinary Americans using several verbal twitches. These include in certain phrases like, you know, in the middle of his speeches, and also mimicking everyday speech by not always following a single line of argument. For example, when he gave his speech to the Marine One in June 11, 2019, listen to what he says. Now, nobody cares, but a great honor to be with you. We are doing very well. Mexico is doing a great job at the border, really helping us. Carl says to his detractors, it sounds incoherent. However, but to his fans, it certainly gives the impression that he's replicating the patterns of ordinary day-to-day speech between 2 people. Secondly, through his language choices, Trump creates a new audience dynamic. In 2016, when he ran the US presidential election and he faced Hillary Clinton, the difference in the communication styles was stark. For example, with Hillary Clinton's speech, it sounded more like a monologue. However, with Donald Trump's speeches, It involvedness of the cuff remarks to the audience and to everyday language. For example, to confront the border crisis, I declared a national emergency. The good news is everybody agrees. Thirdly, we talk about emotional resonance. By sticking to pre-written speeches, traditional politicians tend to veer towards more formal structures and vocabulary. Trump doesn't like the same approach. He stretches out words like amazing and breaks down his delivery speeches in smaller segments. The actual style of it is quite similar to how you might be talking to a young child. Trump's speeches usually have emotional resonance. Number 4, Trump and other politicians are capitalizing on growing pessimism. Carl believes society is generally moving away from the traditional politicians by using structured scripts, largely because of the growing awareness of and the cynicism around traditional rhetoric techniques. He explains, there's always been a dichotomy between wanting to appear sincere and spontaneous, while nevertheless employing the established techniques of rhetoric. In Trump's case, his strategy is to become more informal. 5th, Trump's confidence also impacts his rhetoric delivery. People don't want a performance of sincerity, argues Carl. They actually want sincerity. Ultimately, how you overcome it is how people have always overcome it, just being yourself. And that is what Trump has been doing. He is being himself. For example, but for Trump, he was being himself when he suddenly started talking about the 2020 opponents, when he made a statement, can you imagine Sleepy Joe, Crazy Bunny? In Trump's election campaign, being yourself came naturally to Trump, and the results were clear to see. Now, my fellow Toastmasters, do you really think we can follow Trump's format? I don't think so. Each speech should have a coherent introduction, should have a body, and should have a conclusion. And your speech should be actually punctuated with variety in your tone, as well as filler words, just like how Toastmasters programs have taught us to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Antoinette. An intriguing speech, and you raised some interesting points there, which we will all no doubt consider. Those frogs in the background, by the way, that's an a lovely lilting sound in the background. All right, so that was our first speech. Our second speaker tonight is John Quick. Now, John is presenting a speech, and he is coming from, I'm not sure which path it is. He did tell me, but of course I've got that written somewhere else. Visionary Communications. Now, this particular path, like all paths, has as the second level a speech on mentoring. It's an introduction to mentoring, and this is the Learning Your Style. What John will be looking at tonight is mentoring opportunities in 2019/2020. So once again, for a time of 5 to 7 minutes, with lights at 5, 6, and 7, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome member John Quick with mentoring opportunities in 2019/2020.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. It's that time of the year when elected future officers start hijacking speaking positions to talk about club matters. So here I am in a very formal office today to bring you once again level 2. I find myself there again. But nevertheless, I want you to know, some of you don't know this, my first mentor in Toastmasters was Lois Margolin, who's our incoming president, of course, and she's been our vice president of membership also the vice president membership of 16,000 other clubs worldwide. So she's got a lot of experience. And she's mentored pretty much everyone in Toastmasters. One thing I wanted to share on topic with you is that I think as a mentor, something she did really well was adapt to the needs of the person she was mentoring. That's a good lesson for us to think about. Me, I'm someone who doesn't need a lot of hand-holding or encouragement. I'll just go off and do my thing. But when I was a brand new Toastmaster almost 3 years ago, I didn't have any knowledge of this obscure idiosyncratic system of Toastmasters, just like anybody who comes in. But she did an excellent job of focusing on feeding me the information when I needed it in a good timing and helping keep me informed in all those little details and opportunities that you have as a Toastmaster. That kept me engaged and let me really learn about the system as I was moving through it. That's one tip we can learn from Lois. That is, adapt to the needs of your mentor. Some may need a lot of encouragement. Some may not. Some may need the information fed at the right times in the right places. Some may not. So that's one thing I learned about being a good mentor from her. Hopefully she'll watch the video since she's out of town today and be embarrassed and weepy when she sees this. All right, let's turn to the next subject, mentoring. Well, it's time for a new Toastmasters year. It's a good time to think about what we want to accomplish as a club and individuals in regards to mentoring. So I have 3 points today regarding that. First point, we have opportunities for new pairings. Do you want to be a mentor for someone in the club? Are you seeking a mentor for someone in the club? Now's a good time to ask yourself about that. Is there something you want to do? It could be a 1 month period. Maybe you want to do a quarter, a whole year, 6 months, whatever it may be. If you have something that you think someone in the club, whether it's a specific person or you're just putting the request out there, just let me know. I'm going to be your vice president of education. So this is the kind of thing that comes under my responsibilities to handle for the next year. Do you need a mentor? Or are you willing to mentor for someone else? I'm inviting you to think about it and let me know in the next few weeks. Second point, in Pathways, there's a totally optional but formal mentoring program now. This is potentially a nice thing because you can get recognition from going through this whole program from Toastmasters International. You can get a nice set of tools and guidance on how to be a good mentor and how to keep track of a mentee and how to get feedback with them over a 6-month period. So it kind of walks you through the whole process. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, again, you can be either the mentor or the person being mentored and participate in that formal program. I know some of the members in our club have done it already, so we have the knowledge in the club regarding that, and in fact, I'm also planning to take that on in the next 6 or so months. Last point, one thing that came up in board discussions recently was the concept of how we're all looking for new skills, especially with technology and online meetings. We've done workshops where we've invited special guests in the past. Another idea that came up was, can we use the internal knowledge in our club to spin off some themed training and development type meetings? I think we definitely can. We just need to get the word out there and get a little bit organized. For example, people are always asking me about things like the green screen. People are always interested in slides. We've seen people use audio recently. Everybody's asking, oh, how do we do that? How do we get it to work right? All of us have some skills already that I think we're using quite well. Therefore, can a few of us get together and do a meeting? It could even be a normal meeting. We don't have to block out the whole hour for one speaker. We might just get 3 speakers who all want to share something about their presentation skills in the online webinar platform. You know, I might do something on green screen, someone might do audio, someone might do slides. whatever it may be. That's another thing I wanted to put out there. If you're interested, if you have a specific area of interest that you want to learn about and share, or you already have the expertise in, think about whether you'd like to organize with a small group, and we can come up with a training day as part of our meetings. And maybe it can be something we do a few times throughout the year to give a more specific technology focus to our mutual training this year. So to summarize, do you want to be a mentor, or do you want to be mentored? Have you considered the formal program that will guide you through the process, as well as earn a little bit of recognition from headquarters? And are you interested in sharing some of your expertise along with another group of people in a themed meeting where we all can share and learn? Let me know. I'm your Vice President of Education starting in a week, and this is the kind of thing that I want to be able to help you with. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, John. Thank you. And yes, everybody, I would seriously urge you to take John up on this opportunity, because there are some great opportunities for mentoring coming up in the next year. Not only those that he mentioned, but I might also mention one other thing just in passing. Anybody who is having difficulty achieving their DTM under the existing program because they have to do a year of service as a district officer, and that's going to be very difficult since there is only 1 year left. If you take on a club coach role, which is an extension of mentoring, then you get district officer credit for that. I don't know whether they're going to continue that beyond 2020, but again, if coaching and mentoring is important to you, this is a great way to get your DTM coming up. But certainly the mentoring that John is speaking about is something that we as club members should all be grabbing the opportunity to take. Our third speaker today is Roger Fung. Now, Roger asks you to unmute, unless you are typing or have frogs chirping outside or something that will be disruptive. I think basically he wants you to react to his speech. Whether that's with laughter or hurling abuse, I'm not quite sure. We will find out. But Roger did ask if you can unmute yourself and react as if you were in a brick and mortar club. Roger was never afraid to speak in public, but did join Toastmasters because he was afraid he was talking too long and not keeping his speeches on topic. In December 2017, he became the Pathways Guide to help launch Toastmasters' new educational system in District 50, and then by November 18 became the first Pathways Distinguished Toastmaster in his district. During the last year, as VP of Education for online presenters, Roger has focused on improving his leadership skills. But tonight, we welcome Roger back to the speaking stage as he presents to us the Level 2 project, Know Your Sense of Humour, from the new Engaging Humour Path. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Roger Fung, the day job I did not go to school to learn to do. The day job I did not go to school to learn to do, Roger Fung.
Pop quiz. What is that? Anyone? Raise your hands if you think you know what that is. Any takers? No? How about this little part?
Sorry.
Anyone has any idea what this little part is? Venture to guess.
UFO.
UFO. No,
A
not
rotary
quite.
switch.
It's
What
a
about
switch.
this little thing?
That's a cleaner for a drain.
A cleaner for a drain. Well, not quite. What? Why do we have these things in front of you?
To trick us.
Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters and guests.
First one's a fan control.
Why should you care about any of those tools and parts I put up? Well, I want you to stay tuned, because by the end of this speech, I am going to put some money in your pocket today. First of all, 80% of the time, I work from home. That means no commute. No commute like when I was in DC, and this is what I had to stare at each and every day.
Oh, yeah.
Or when I was working and living in Hong Kong, I was packed like sardines going to the subway. That's what I had to deal with. But today, my commute is 30 seconds. It goes from the kitchen to my office. And I love doing this. I love working from home. Now, while I do spend a lot of time behind the computer, my real day job is the one that I didn't go to school to learn how to do. My real day job is Mr. Honeydew. You know what I'm saying? Honey, do this. Honey, do that. Now that is the benefit of working from home. Now,
Yeah, tell me about it.
well, what are these things? Well, let me educate you just a little bit. Now, in America, many of us have electric stovetop. This thing is the part where you twist and control on the dial. Now, most stovetop has 4 burners, but I bet you most of you overuse one of those, and the other 3 is basically all left alone. But when you twist that knob over and over again, that thing go away. Now, if you call somebody in America, you got 2 problems. Number 1, when they say they're gonna come in the morning, well, if they show up at 11 o'clock and 59 seconds, maybe it's still morning.
Yeah.
Number 2, they come in here, they unhook my stovetop, takes 15 minutes, replace that little parts, and I get a bill for $150 for showing up and $50 for parts. That's pretty steep. Well, what about the second thing right here? This is a little thermostat from your dryer. Have you ever used a dryer? You plugged it in, you hear the motor running, groom, groom, groom. But after a few minutes, there's no heat at all. Well, 9 times out of 10 is because this little part is burned out. So there's no heat. All you have to do is tip your dryer aside from the bottom, stick it in, 2 screws, unhook that, replace that thing, voila, you got yourself a brand new dryer. I have lived in a home in Washington, D.C. where I bought a dryer once, never replaced, only replaced the little parts. I'm down here in Dallas, Texas right now. When I move into this house, I also bought 1 dryer. Never buy another one, only need to replace this little thing. The third little thing is right over here. This is what's called a bladder. You can attach your garden hose over here, and you use this when the pipe is all clogged and you can't, no Drano is enough. You shove this in here, you turn it on, this black part will expand big enough, will clog the whole pipe so that the water will shoot out and force out whatever is stuck in your pipes. I did promise, so I'm gonna put some money in your pocket tonight. Now, what I just mentioned, all this together, you need these 3 fix, is almost $1,000. So get ready, because I'm gonna save you some money, and all you need to know is 3 little things. Number 1, YouTube. Look at me. Do I look like a guy who can fix things? But I fixed it because I learned it from YouTube. Now, word of caution, when you go search on YouTube, don't just watch 1 video. Do 2, 3, 4 videos to make sure there's some consistency in terms of what they're teaching you. All right? The second thing you need is Amazon. Now, those guys, or repair guys and gals, they're going to charge you $50, $100 for those parts. All those 3 parts earlier, each one of them, $9.99. You can get them in Amazon, you can get them in Home Depot, but they can ship it to you ASAP. And the third thing you need is a phone. You see, you can play those YouTube links right in front of what you're doing, and you watch exactly what's going on while you're doing the repair. And besides, when you go, oops, that's when your spouse pick up that phone. First, they're going to call the ambulance. Second, they'll call the repair person to fix the mess that you have just created. Now, seriously, if we want to progress in our career, in our home lives, church, nonprofit, wherever it is, we need to continue to learn things that we did not learn from school. You're here in Toastmasters because you want to improve your speaking and your leadership skill. You're here in Online Presenters because you want to work on presenting online. Thank you very much for allowing me to be your VP of Education in this past year. And let us continue to learn and grow, because you never know when you may have a new day job. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Roger. I have to say, I'm not sure that I want to take that advice, because I am reminded of the story that I once heard that the busiest day for plumbers is Monday, and it is after husbands go back to work and wives who have put up with the fridge, the dripping tap or whatever all weekend say, I'm not putting up with this anymore, I'm getting a plumber in. But hey, it's worth trying. YouTube, yeah, YouTube is your friend. Can I ask the timekeeper, did all three of our speakers reach their allotted times? If you can let us know and put the times into the chat box, that would be a fabulous thing.
I will, yes, all three speakers met their time. Do I state them here or just?
That would be good, you might as well.
Okay. Antoinette at 6 minutes and 13 seconds. John at 6 minutes and 48 seconds. And Roger at 7 minutes and 20 seconds. So
fabulous.
Qualified.
Thank you, Madam Timekeeper. So everybody is qualified. Can you now please send your vote to our vote counter this evening? And I would like you to vote for Best Speaker. So your three speakers, as you have just heard, were Antoinette, John, and Roger. So please send your best speaker to our vote counter, and then she can announce that a little later. So those are the prepared speeches. But of course, the part of Toastmasters that I enjoy most, I have to say, other than the evaluations, and that's the most important part, but the part that I enjoy most are table topics, because table topics are, in fact, the most common form of speaking for most of us. I mean, our boss rarely asks us to present a 5 to 7 minute project report. He will quite often say, can you tell your team where we are up to and what we need to do? And so that's what table topics teaches us to do. Think on our feet and to speak without any notice. To present the table topics for this evening, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your topics master, Dagmara Sitek.
Thank you, dear Mr. Toastmaster. Today, we are going to have table topics all about Canada, because this week and another week are extremely important for Canadians as we are celebrating two very important holidays. So, fellow Toastmasters, let me start with the first question. July 1st is the first National Day of Canada, and you are a Canadian. What you will be doing on that day, buddy?
Calling as a let me. I'll have to call you back. Sorry, I'm on online here. So I'm a Canadian. Well, I have never actually been a Canadian before, so. But I have been an American. I mean, well, of course, that's North America too. But I've been a United States citizen, and July 4th is coming up. We'll probably fire off some fireworks. we had a son who really wanted to do fireworks, and he bought a whole bunch of fireworks, and then he went and died on us. So we have been keeping that fireworks around, wondering what we're going to do with it. But this 4th of July, I think it's time to go ahead and blow it up. That's what I'll be doing in the United States on July 4th, which is our day. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Another extremely important holiday that's happening in Canada today is St. John the Baptist Day. It is a holiday celebrated always June 24th, and it's celebrated in the Canadian province of Quebec, which is French-speaking province. Mike, what you will be doing to celebrate St. John the Baptist Day?
Fellow Toastmasters, I actually have been celebrating as Jean Baptiste Day. In fact, I've been celebrating it because I've been working alone the entire day. I'm actually in Canada, and there are 2 team members that are in Montreal in a place called Shawinigan, and they're out drinking beer, and they're hanging out by the pool, and they're out doing picnics and driving around. Yeah, I'm stuck answering the emails. So that's what I'm doing today. Of course, being in Ontario, we have some holidays that they don't get, which is perfect as well. But the other thing that happens on St. Jean Baptiste Day, I don't think too many people realize it, is they get ready to move. Because moving day is coming up July 1st. July 1st in Montreal, all of the leases get canceled and everybody has to move all at once. So right now, there are hundreds of people trying to arrange for pickup trucks and U-Hauls all over the place while they're drinking beer and driving around and hanging out at the park enjoying themselves. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you so much, Mike. Now, I have another question to another fellow Canadian. My parents are coming to Canada in 2 days from Poland. Where are you going to take them, Chris?
Madam Topic Master and fellow Toastmasters, let me see, you're in Montreal. That wouldn't be too far from Quebec City, and one of my favorite things I did in Quebec City was watch the changing of the guards at the Frontenac, and Montreal and Quebec City have some fabulous things to see. It's amazing that that's a British foundation and then French in Quebec. I remember being so proud when I first went there right out of college that I had taken French and I thought I knew how to speak some French, but apparently they didn't think so. I asked, où est le téléphone? And they said, do you want to call local or long distance? They made it very clear that they knew I couldn't speak French and they would answer me in English. You can get by in English or French. And there is lots of beauty to see. I recommend the changing of the guards and the art. There was a road that was dedicated to artists that just hung their works on the walls. And I think I still have one around here somewhere. Madam Topic Master.
Thank you so much, Chris. I have a question. Do we still have time for another question?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Tiger, what is your favorite Canadian beer and why?
Well, that's a fairly simple answer. Molson's is my favorite Canadian beer. I'm not familiar with Eastern Canada at all. I am a Western Canadian traveler. I've been to British Columbia and Alberta several times, and the most fun I ever had, there is a road that goes from Banff to Jasper. It follows the Rocky Mountains, and on one side of you is Alberta, on the other side of you is British Columbia. It is absolutely beautiful. And the most fun I ever had, we got to Jasper at about 10 o'clock one night, and we couldn't find a place to stay. So we were driving around, and this guy offered us, he and his wife offered us to stay at their home. They just happened to be having a party, so we came in the backyard, and they had coolers full of Molson beer. And so we spent the night drinking Molson beer with the local Canadians, and then the next day, a couple that we met took us on a tour, and we went on a gondola into the Rockies. It was a fantastic experience. So Molson beer, great experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tiger. Rolando, we already know what our fellow Canadians would be doing on Canada Day. But what is the one thing that you absolutely wouldn't do to celebrate National Canada Day?
I'm the Motivational fellow Toastmaster, most welcome guests. Good evening. One thing I wouldn't do to celebrate Canada's Day is staying in my house sleeping. I need to get out and find out what's happening on the street. A week ago, and I'm still thinking you guys still celebrating, the Toronto Raptors won the NBA Finals. I'll be out there looking for a fellow Canadian that want to celebrate. 20 years it's been since the Raptors trying to get a championship. They finally got one, and they're so excited. Imagine a Canadian city winning the NBA championship. The NBA is a US entity. How can Canada won the championship? But I was so happy for them. They deserve it. It was well done. They work hard and they execute perfectly. They play as a team and they came out on top. And I was glad to see their fans celebrating last week, drinking, partying. You guys, Canadian knows how to party. And I will be partying with them even as the party continues. As long as they're partying, I'll be with them as long as they keep partying until I get drunk and I can't drink no more. Back to you, Madam the Master.
Thank you, Rolando. Lou, what is your least favorite Canadian sport?
Thank you, Madam Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters. I'm not sure if this is actually a Canadian sport, but I just have to say it is. When I think of Canada, I think of winter, and when I think of winter, I think of the Winter Olympics. And when I think of Winter Olympics, I think of a sport that I'm like, how is this even part of the Olympics? Curling! I do not get curling. What is that disc that they slide along the ground? It almost looks like something I've seen at the gym. I think it's like a makeshift plate that one might put on a rod when you do it, when you're lifting weights. They have sand in them, if you've ever seen those things. Is it supposed to be a giant hockey puck? I'm not sure. And then I'm like, what's up with this broom? Are you sweeping dirt away in front of the big giant hockey puck? Or are you trying to create grooves in the ice for this thing to slide on? I mean, I know there's some kind of method to this madness, but do you go to school to become a curler? Do you graduate with a degree in curling? Do you have to wear curlers when you're curling? of course, I wouldn't be able to qualify since I have no hair to put curlers in, but I digress. I just don't understand curling. I'm not sure when it started. I assume people were probably bored at one time. They're like, man, what do we do? Well, hey, we got this big giant hockey puck over here. Hey, there's a broom over there. Maybe we'll just slide this thing in the ice and take a broom and sweep it in front and just see what happens. And try not to fall in the ice while you're doing it as well, of course. I just think that that is a sport that I'll just never get. It's interesting that it's part of the Olympics, and kudos to those who enjoy it and love it. And I'm sure it's some famous sport somewhere. I don't think it's from Canada, but it immediately makes me think of a sport that I just don't get. Aside from that, hockey is a sport that I do like from Canada. Back to you, Madam Topics Master.
Wonderful. Thank you to all of you. I really feel like you're a true Canadian at heart. The questions were very difficult, but you did amazing, and your answers were very creative. Thank you so much, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Dagmara. Thank you for all of those questions. Having just spent 3 days in British Columbia, I have to say I drank Molson's beer, I drank a Labatt Blue, and I ate poutines. So now I feel like a Canadian. Hey. Okay. I will ask the timekeeper if we have a list of the times for the table topics and who was eligible to be best table topic of the evening. So, Madam Timekeeper.
Sorry, I did not actually raise the colors for table topics. Like I said, first time, so I apologize for that, but everybody was less than 2 minutes, so.
In that case, everybody is eligible. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please vote for your best table topics participant? And once again, send the votes through to our vote counter. And on that note, that completes my role as Toastmaster for the evening. I thank all of the speakers. I thank all of the people who had ancillary roles, and I will now hand control of the meeting to our general evaluator for the evaluation sessions. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General Evaluator Jimmy Dent.
Thank you, Graham. Okay, we're going to start off the general evaluation with hearing what our evaluators have to say about the speakers. Our first evaluator is Mike Walsh, who was evaluating Antoinette. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
Mr. General Evaluator, and of course, fellow Toastmasters, I'm speaking most likely directly to Antoinette. The purpose of Antoinette's speech was to learn the basic research methods and present a well-organized speech, and I think that's what she's done. She's, of course, picked a subject that can be controversial, although, certainly a public figure. And of course, a lot of us have heard his speeches. I've heard Donald Trump speak and wondered, what's going on? Why is he so successful? Yet he's still breaking all the rules as he goes. So I think Antoinette's speech was very succinct, well-researched. In fact, let's have a look through it. Some basic ideas of what's going on, and then pretty much said, yep, Donald Trump, you're breaking the rules. You're using rhetoric, making rhetoric great again. And she did some good things along the way. She analyzed and she said, hey, we're talking to ordinary people. And so she realized that, of course, Donald Trump brought the language down to perhaps a little lower than maybe most politicians do. In fact, she mentioned it, bringing right down to a children's level, and of course, repeating it repeatedly. She talked about the emotional resonance. In other words, Donald Trump knew the audience. And of course, that's one of the lessons as we went along. And in fact, all through, Antoinette, all through your speech, I was listening and I'm thinking, you're going to say that he did a good speech. You're going to say that he followed the rules. You're going to go along and you're saying, yeah, he knew his audience. He did his research. He used rhetoric. He repeated his words. He used all of the classic things. And then, of course, in your conclusion, I think you concluded what a lot of us maybe concluded, is that maybe the purpose of that speech wasn't to communicate to a general audience. It's to communicate to a very specific audience while everybody else is wondering what's going on. And of course, you emphasize that almost perfectly by using a lot of expressions, by repeating what he was saying, not only repeating quotes, but also repeating his speech style as well. Now, trying to think about something to improve on, and I thought of a couple of things. In your opening PowerPoint, you had some text in there, and I thought, well, maybe the picture is really all you need. So imagine this, a picture of Martin Luther King with Have a Dream. You have Barack Obama, and then right below that, you have Make America Great. And so kind of making the three different comparisons as you go along. I think really the only thing that I would really try to improve on is maybe raising your head up a little bit. May I suggest that instead of having notes in front of you, you do one of two things. You try to have notes in your eye line, whether you have to get flip charts, put things up on the wall. But I don't mean notes so much as I mean general points to keep you on track. Because I think once you know the subject, you're going to run with it. And with longer things, I wouldn't be afraid to be a newscaster and to go right ahead and pick up a piece of paper and read it, because it's no secret. And then that way you're getting closer to making eye contact even while reading it. So those are the only two suggestions that I had, but if you'll read the evaluation, you'll see that I actually really did love the speech, and I think it was very timely. So thank you very much, Antoinette.
Hey, thank you, Mike. And our next evaluator is Tiger, who would be evaluating John Quick's speech. Are you ready, Tiger?
Yes. Thank you, John, for a very creative speech on a very dull subject. You did very well with that. And quite frankly, I would much rather listen to you than Donald Trump. Your background immediately grabs attention. I like the way you started your speech, and with your background, it immediately grabbed attention. You brought up some excellent points, and you utilized a little bit of humor. You kind of threw your mentor under the bus, being that she's not here. I thought that was extremely humorous. And of course, humor always adds to a good speech. People were engaged. I monitored people, and they were definitely engaged in what you were talking about. You talked about a good subject, an important subject, and I really appreciated the way that you invited people to either mentor or be a mentor. I thought that was a great message, and I would assume that people are going to take you up on that offer. You had a couple of things that you said that I would like to repeat that I really liked. It said in Pathways, there's a totally optional but formal mentoring program. And you also said we need to utilize our internal knowledge to spin off information. So in other words, using the club's internal knowledge. You were very organized. Obviously, you had planned this, and you were very organized. And again, this is a pretty dull subject, and I thought you did a good job of entertaining us as well as informing us. The one thing I would have liked to have heard with your experiences as a mentor or as a mentee or a protege is specific examples, maybe of some challenges you might have had. You gave us kind of a general example of Lois being adaptable, but I would have liked to have heard maybe some specific examples. Other than that, I enjoyed it. You did a very good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tiger. And next, our third evaluator is Jacinta, who is evaluating Roger's speech. Are you ready, Jacinta?
Jacinta, thank you so much, Jimmy. I appreciate that. Did you all learn something today with Roger's speech? I see a lot of head nods. Most of the audience is nodded their head. Roger, this was an impressive speech. As always, actually my first time hearing you give a speech. And I'd like to highlight three areas where Roger excelled and 3 opportunities that can help us all become better speakers. Roger started off with engaging the audience. This is a masterful trick that we all should take notes of. Asking questions, getting your audience involved. What is this? Why should you care? Everyone was paying close attention and should be using your further speeches. He put us on suspense, and I don't see that often, but you wanted to know, what was he going to say? I'm going to put money in your pocket. We all want some money, right? That is something that I would encourage everyone to try to do, is put your audience in suspense. He did a masterful job with that. Presentation backgrounds, speechless. Did a wonderful job showing us images, hand gestures, sounds. Did you like when he said glum, glum? Couldn't you mentally imagine your dryer spinning at home? That is a trick that I would encourage everyone to do when you're giving vocal variety. Help the actual person, the audience member, understand what you're saying, even if they close their eyes. And he did a masterful job with that. Giving us a call to action. At the end, he encouraged us all to be able to grow, not only in doing tricks and different types of maneuvers at home to save you money, but also to grow as a Toastmaster, which is the reason why we are all here. There's 3 opportunities to enhance this speech. The title was a very good title to explain what you were trying to do. I think I would recommend to make it a bit shorter. You made one comment that was extremely catchy, and there were so many laughs with it. Mr. Honeydew. Everybody laughed from what I could tell. And with the title, if it could be a bit shorter, or maybe perhaps a different play on words, just give it that impact. That's like we felt with Mr. Honeydew. You did an amazing job with your vocals. I think I would recommend, when you talked about the bladder for the water, to maybe do something big like, because I heard the glum, 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 but I think just something more dramatic with that would have been an excellent suggestion. There is only something very minor in terms of the 4 burners. You're excellent with your hand gestures. You're always good with 1, 2, 3. There was a point when you're talking about the 4 burners, you were kind of moving quite a bit. And I would recommend just go 1, 2, 3, 4, just like you masterfully do all the time. Roger's speech was solid. He wanted to make sure the message came across as being a solid core message. And I know I've learned a lot from his message, and know that everyone here in Toastmasters could learn different tricks, what I highlighted in terms of how to make your speech better. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Okay, thank you. And let's see where we're at. Okay, that's the end of our speech evaluation. Now we'll move to our functionary reports. First, we'll hear from our timer. How did our evaluators do as far as time?
As far as time, we had everyone qualified. We have Mike at 3 minutes and 19 seconds, Tiger at 2 minutes and 14 seconds, and Jacinta at 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
So everybody qualified?
Yes.
So please vote for the best evaluator right now and send those votes to Monica. I'll give you a minute or so to do that while I cast my own vote. Okay, moving along. Next, we'll hear from our odd counter, her report. Magda.
Thank you, Mr. Honeydew. Oh, no, I mean Mr. Toastmaster. I had a fun time here, but also a very boring time. Because the members did not play their part. They did not give me all those filler words. What I've noted down here is our Toastmaster of the day, but this is really a bit unfair because he's speaking all the time. A little bit of a and a so. And then Buddy, I caught an and a so. And Dagmara, And I think that's about it. I wish I could nitpick a little bit better, but you didn't give me the opportunity, so I'll guess I'll have to do this role again. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Magda. Our next functionary report will be from our watcher, John.
Well, there's lots of interesting things going on here today. The Definite Door Prize goes to Roger and his incredible use of his background in order to be able to point correctly at the exact spot, even though he didn't turn around and look or anything. That was impressive. And some other things that I noticed, Tiger, you've got a different room that you're in, or you're painting a different direction, so the brightness is significantly better. My only advice to you on this is your alignment in that. At one point you were aligned right in the center with that crack there behind you. That's the perfect spot, because then the room comes in and you look like you're centered in that room. It looks much better than when you're off to the side. Let's see some other ones here. Buddy, where are you at down the middle? Buddy, you were doing a great job of trying to keep centered on camera. I know it's your first online meeting. Great job of staying centered. Try to keep a little less space above you. There's a huge amount of space above you, and your chin is on the bottom of the screen. So just try and get a little bit more above you there. And Nick, you've got to find some lighting for the other side of your screen. You've got static all up and down what looks like, to me, it's the left-hand side. I'm not sure which side it is, but you've got a lot of light problems on your green screen there. A couple tips I would suggest to everybody is that if you're using a laptop, get some books or something underneath it. You do not want to be looking down at your laptop. You need to be looking straight at the camera. So get something underneath it. Get that laptop up a little bit so you're looking directly at your camera. Also, get yourself a free Zoom account. You can, everybody can get an account. It's free. And you can test this out ahead of time so that you're not on here trying to figure something out at the last minute. Get a free account, play with your lighting, play with your green screen, and it'll all come across quite a bit better. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Our next functionary is our chat monitor, Deborah. Are you ready?
I am. Well, it was just a little bit of prodding in the beginning, and we didn't have Magna chasing us yet. But there was just a little bit of banter, which is really nice. And then I thought it was really kind that after, I gotta find it, after Antoinette's speech, that Jimmy Dent thought it was really, that would be a really good idea to invite Donald Trump to our group. My thought was, I don't know if he could take, the, the evaluations. So it was also nice that, that Tiger, along with it, has gotten his special mentoring, his certificate. And then there was a lot of remarks with Dagmara's table topics, everything from beer and hockey to, here in northern Michigan we have our own curling. It's garbage trucks on ice. And people really just also wanted to know what Roger charges for house calls. So that's the bit of it. For the two guests, David Carr had put in the link if you're interested in joining us, and we hope you will and come back again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this point, I'll give my evaluation of the meeting. We started on time. That's a good thing. We had two guests. Great guests. We'll hear from our guests later. Want to first say what I like about the evaluations. I'm just going to point out what I liked. I liked the fact that Mike started off with stating what the objective of the speech was, which is always a good idea to start off with. So it reminds the members what the objective was. Yeah, I like some of his comments about what he was expecting. He was expecting to hear, Trump's a great speaker, but it turned out not to be. And, there was some good points that were brought out because he has a uniquely different speaking style, which you commented about than traditional people or traditional politicians. Tiger's evaluation of the speech was, he talked about Roger's background, or John's background, rather. I'm sorry. John's background, which kind of followed right along the theme of the first speech with being with the president. It looks like it's the Oval Office. And he talked about how he invited us to be mentors, which was the focus of the speech. And that's basically a call to action, which is great comment on that. Now, I like the fact he brought out the phrase that Rod John used, which was use our internal knowledge. You know, he's picking out some unique grammar phrases in the evaluation. That's great to do too. And last, Jacinta, I liked how you started off with a rhetorical question to all of us. Did you learn something today? That was a great idea for that as an evaluation. A lot of times we're just speaking directly to the evaluator, but that got everybody thinking immediately. What did I actually learn? I like that comment. I liked how you put 3 points that were good, and then you talked about 3 things that could be done better. And one of the things I did like where you pointed out some more better drama could have been used. I was expecting him to be a little bit more dramatic in some of those places that you picked out, knowing how he's done speeches in the past. So all in all, I think all 3 evaluators did a great job. They were slightly different from each other. They used different styles, but that's fine. That's what makes evaluations fun. The table topics I thought was very great, interesting table topics. It made us think, because some of us may not know anything about the Canadian holidays. And while everybody's answering, I'm looking that stuff up online as she's asking questions in case I was going to be next. I was going to be ready for the answers, so I understood the holiday. So that's interesting. Everybody else did a great job. So right now, I'll turn it back to our Toastmaster of the day, Graham Carnes.
Wrong button. I'm using a laptop rather than my usual PC. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for everything that you have done for this evening. As I said earlier, I'm now finished for the day, so I now get to hand back to our presiding officer, who is the outgoing president. And Jimmy, I believe this is your last role as president, so it's all yours.
This is my last week as the president of the club. And it's been a great year. The club's done good. All the members have done a great job with the club. It was very easy. To me, it was very easy being president this year. So first thing I'd like to do is hear from our visitors. So first, let's hear from Emily. What did you think of our meeting tonight, Emily?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed myself very much. I had no idea what you could do with those backgrounds. That was awesome to see Deborah's red, yellow, and green backgrounds being all fruit, and then to see Roger's backgrounds changing as he gave his speeches. So that was really awesome to see. I enjoyed the meeting, and I thought it was really very interesting. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you, Emily. And next, we want to hear from our visitor, Buddy. Yeah, unmute yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. It was a last-minute decision on my part to join. And in fact, I was going to only listen and not use my camera. So within a few seconds before, I decided to go ahead and plug in the webcam, and it was interesting because I would have prepared the background, and I learned a lot from watching the other people's backgrounds, interesting ideas for creating the backdrop. Also, the body language and presentation styles were very inspiring. Excellent speakers. It inspired me to learn. I definitely want to join and improve my skills.
Great. Well, both of you are definitely welcome to come back, and I think David posted some information in the chat if you want to join the club.
Yeah, we actually don't twist your arm too hard. We actually ask you to come to a couple of meetings as a guest and then decide to sign up. So there's a join page on our website. You go to the join page, there's all the information you need to know about how to join. That's the idea. Can I offer one educational tip? I was waiting see if somebody mentioned this in Antoinette's evaluation or maybe from the watcher, but when she pulled up her slides, they were still in what's called the slide sorter mode, or the mode that you're in when you're authoring the slides. So, and I've seen other people struggle with this as well, about how to share the slides properly. But ideally, there's one of the tabs there it says slideshow, and you put it into present mode to present from the beginning, and then it takes over the bigger screen. And the other thought is, whatever it is that you're going to share visually, it doesn't necessarily have to be a PowerPoint. It could be something from a website. But if you're going to use screen sharing, try to have whatever it is you're going to share 100% queued up in the background, and then switch over to the Zoom console. And as soon as you click that share button, if you just share your desktop, it's going to share the last thing that was on your screen. So make sure it's not something embarrassing. Don't keep your keep your tax returns. I'll keep it clean and say tax returns. But but particularly, if you can have your slides ready to go, so that you're not futzing around, navigating through Windows, starting PowerPoint. We don't want to see any of that. We want you to have done that ahead of time and have it all ready to go. And I'm just in terms of professional presentation, that's what you would want to do. Enough said.
Okay, thank you. That's a good educational tip, David. Okay, before we sign off, we want to hear from Monica. How about our votes? Who's got the best winners?
All right, all votes have been accounted, and best speaker goes to Roger. Best table topic goes to Lou. And best evaluator goes to Jacinta.
Mm-hmm.
Great job, guys.
Great. Congratulations, all three of you. Good job tonight. Okay, this is my final week. Great job this year. We got new officers will be here beginning the next meeting, which is the 1st of July. So I hope to see everybody back here too. It's going to be another great year, I'm sure of that. The club's going strong, and we will continue to be going strong. Does anybody have any announcements they'd like to make?
Yes, Jimmy, this is Roger. Let's make sure that we gave everybody a chance to speak up. So Viviana, please, 15, 20 seconds. What's one comment that you would like to share with us about this meeting? Unmute yourself.
The speakers, okay, I think they are great speakers. For example, I learned about the Donald Trump. The Donald Trump speaking style, and also from John Quick. I think we will have a good VPE for the next year. For example, I said that Roger had done a good job as a VPE. And from Roger, I learned, I didn't want to do the household fixing thing. Normally my husband did all the things. I have never tried to be the handy-mandy. Now I know that we all can learn from YouTube to fix the things. Back to you, Roger.
Great, thank you, Viviana. Nick, say a few words, Nick.
Well, like Viviana, I've never tried to be the handyman either, but hey, I really enjoyed the meeting. Great energy, great speakers, brilliant evaluators, and I really like this time of year because it's a time for just reflection and renewal and energy for the coming Toastmaster year. So let's we've had a big bang tonight. Let's go out with fireworks, and then let's kick off hitting the ground running, as they say. thank you very much. And Roger, thank you very much for all your help for me since I've been a member for the last 6 or 7 months. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. How about Asil? I don't know if she's still online. If she is, please say hello.
Yes, she's there.
Her screen is frozen. Asil, if you're still connected, love to hear from you while you're messing around with that. Jim Gold, say a word or two.
Hey, well, good meeting. Thanks, everything. Jimmy, great job this past year. Thank you for your service. And Roger, as always, you're doing a great job. Great to see you, Graham. Travel safely. Everybody else, have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you. Joy, dive in. Give us a comment or two about the meeting today.
Did she drop off? Where is she?
Oh, Joyce, right
I
here.
am still here. Yeah. I especially enjoyed John's speech about mentoring because I am mentoring or coaching a couple of clubs and have been mentoring a lot of people. And it's a very important issue. And I don't get bored about listening speeches about it because it's important. Another thing, I felt actually rather uncomfortable about this speech about Trump's speaking style. And I don't know, I tried to analyze myself, but somehow it's so close to somehow start speaking about the content that I feel it's sensitive. And maybe this is because I studied rhetoric 2 years at the university and have been analyzing lots of American president speeches. And based on that, I think he is a great communicator. You can agree or disagree about what he's saying, but he really reaches his followers and influences them and gets them on his side.
Yeah. And maybe Antoinette have gotten us started. Maybe we will do a special meeting just on that topic of what Antoinette says. And we can debate all we want for 5 hours. All right. So thank you, Antoinette. Thank you,
That sounds
Joy.
very scary.
Mohammed, say hello. Say a few words of what you thought about the meeting. And officially, the meeting is done. So you are welcome to leave. And David, please stop the recording right